Says Karen discovered that a human's height is related to his or her reach. Karen is curious if the same thing is true for foot size. It was not practical for Karen to measure her classmates' feet, so Karen collected the following shoe size data from some of her classmates. Make a graph with an appropriately scaled axes. So here are all of our different shoe sizes and our graph. So on our graph, I scaled my graph, the bottom, to be shoe size. And I counted by ones. I'm not going to label each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And then I counted by tens going up the side. So 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70, 90, 110, 130, 150, 170, 190, 200, going up the side. And the side represented my height. I'm just going to label it with an H to show that it represents height. And then I plotted all my different points. So I'm not going to plot them all, but at 6, 153, went up about there. Then if I went to 8, 160, it would be right in this line, okay, and so on. So as I plotted my points, and I'm not going to be very accurate with this, I ended up with dots that looked kind of like this, in this fashion. And notice that they were all going kind of in an upward direction. So like the trend of my line was going up. So the next question said, was there a, and it's going to move when I do this, it's going to move the whole entire thing up. Was there a relationship between my shoe size and my height? And the correct answer is yes. And you could have written more other than yes. You could have said, yes, the bigger the shoe size, the taller the person. So if your shoe size is bigger, the taller you're going to be. The next question actually still had to do with the shoe size. It asked you to make a box and whisker plot, or box plot, of our data. So the first thing that we need to do in order to make a box plot is to put all of our data in order. So it's just talking about the shoe size. So above the problem, I wrote all the different numbers from least to greatest of the shoe size. So we had a 6, a 6.5, a 7.5, another 7.5, another 7.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 eighths, 2 8.5s, 9.5, and a 10. So, after you've listed your numbers in order, the next thing to do is you have to figure out which is the median, the minimum number, the maximum, and then the first quartile and the third quartile. The quartiles are really just the median of the upper half and the median of the lower half. So first I'm going to find the minimum. The minimum number is 6. The maximum number is 10. Then I'm going to find the median. In order to do that, I'm just going to kind of go in from the ends. I'm going to put little dots to kind of show that I counted off those numbers instead of crossing out, because I want to be able to see them as I'm doing this. So when I get to the middle, I get to 8. So 8 is my median. So now I've separated my data into two halves. The lower half is going to be my first quartile. So I'm going to do the same thing. Just kind of count off my numbers till I get to the middle. When I get to the middle, it's 7.5. Then do the same thing in the second half. So I'm going to count off until I get to the middle. When I get to the middle, it's 8.5. So my first quartile is 7.5. My third is 8.5. The next thing is I have to plot them on the number line. So I have to decide what to count by. So I went up by halves, and I'm going to start at 4. So I'm going to go 4. I'm going to label just my whole numbers, not my halves. But I know that they're there. And then I place dots above each one of my numbers. So my median is right here at 8. My minimum is at 6. My maximum is 10. 7.5 is my quartile 1. And 8.5 is my quartile 2. So after I have my 5-digit summary, I just box them in. Put a box around the quartiles, line through the median, and then connect them with whiskers. So there's my box and whisker plot. Part D of this question said, where does your own shoe size fall in the distribution of Karen's classmates? So in this distribution, I wear a size 9. So here's a 9. It's about here. So I could say that my shoe size is in the upper part of my box and whisker plot. If you wear a size 5, for example, you could say it wasn't even on the box and whisker plot. Or a size 11, it wasn't listed. So this sentence should be about you and your own shoe size. Don't just list your shoe size. Tell me where in the box and whisker plot it falls. So I would say mine is in the upper part of the data. The next question is about mean. It says Letitia is determined to do well in school this year. Her goal is to maintain at least an 85% average or mean in all of her courses. Letitia started her history class with 2 scores on tests, 72 and 89. Confirm that the mean of these 2 scores is 80.5. Show your work. So in order to do this, we would add the 2 together. So we do 72 plus 89 and then divide both of that by 2. And that equals 80.5. So yes, it is 80.5. It says then Letitia's third score was 90. Use her previous scores from part A to figure out her mean now. Be sure to show your work. So now we're going to do 72 plus 89 plus 90 and divide all of that by 3. And when we do that, we get an 83.3, or I think 0.6 repeating percent. So she's still not quite to where she wants to be, but she's pretty close. The next set of questions are diamond problems. You have to figure out what the missing one is. Remember, if we look over here in our key, that the 2 numbers on the right and the left, to get the bottom number, we add them. To get the top number, we multiply them. So in part A, I would do 6 plus 11. So the bottom number is going to be 17. I'm not going to write in the diamond because it would make it too small. And the top number is going to be 66 because 6 times 11. Part B, negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. And the top is going to be negative 4. Make sure you do put them in the right part of your diamonds. Part C, I have to figure out what multiplied together to get 6. And negative 2, it has to be times a negative, so it's times negative 3. And then negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. For negative 8 and 7, I have to figure out what 2 numbers add together to get 7, but multiply together to get negative 8. So in order for it to multiply together to get negative 8, it's going to be 8 and negative 1. And then 8 plus negative 1 is going to be 7. The bottom ones, we started to get into a little fractions. So 1/2 plus 1/2 is actually 1. And then if I multiply them, I get 1 over 4. Because 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. For F, I have 1/3 plus 3/4, which after I find a common denominator is going to be 13 over 12. Or if you put 1 and 1/12, that would be fine as well. And then the top is going to be 3 over 12, which equals 1/4. So G, it's X and X. So it wanted us to show what we would get if we were doing that. So for the bottom, we should have 2X, or X plus X. The top, you should have X times X, or X squared. And for H, it had A and B. So the bottom would be A plus B. and the top would be A times B. The next set of problems you needed to compute without using a calculator. So to do these problems, we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. So for part A, it's negative 15 plus 7. So I'm going to use my rule of different signs I subtract. So I get 8. Oh, not sure how I did that. Get 8. And then since 15 is bigger, it's going to be negative. 8 minus negative 21, I'm going to rewrite it as addition. 8 plus 21, which is going to equal 29. 6 times negative 8 is 48, and it's negative because different signs are negative when you're multiplying. Negative 9 plus negative 13, I have same signs, so I'm going to get 22, and it's going to be negative because they're both negative. Negative 50, I have to change it minus 30 to plus negative 30. So when I do that, I get negative 80 as my answer. 3 minus negative 9, I make it 3 plus 9, which is 12. Negative 75 minus negative 75, rewrite it as negative 75 plus 75, are opposites. When I add them, I get 0. Negative 3 plus 6, different signs I subtract, so it's positive 3 because 6 is bigger. 9 plus negative 14, I get negative 5 because 14 minus 9 is 5, 14 is bigger. 28 minus negative 2, I have to rewrite it as addition, so I get 28 plus 2, so the final answer is 30. Negative 3 plus negative 2 plus 5, well, negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5, plus 5 is going to give me 0. And then 3 plus 2 plus 5 is going to be positive 5 plus 5, which is going to give me 10. The next problem is area of rectangles. So it says below is shown in the middle of the rectangle is the area. For each figure, find the missing length or width. So to do this, I'm just using division. So I'm going to divide because it's the opposite of multiplication. And I know to find the area of a rectangle, I do base times height. So for A, I'm going to do 60 divided by 8 and get 7.5 inches. If you don't put the units on it, it is incorrect. If it would be like going to the store and saying that I need 7.5 of wood and not knowing how many, whether I need inches, centimeters, meters, feet. So you want to make sure you always have the units. So for B, I'm going to do 180 divided by 15, which is going to give me 12 meters. And for C, 231 divided by 14 is going to give me 16.5 centimeters. The next problem, I'm going to compute without using a calculator. So I'm going to do different problems. So the first one is 3/7 divided by 2/3. I'm going to keep change flip. So I'm going to get 3 over 7 times 3 over 2, which is going to give me 9/14. So for this problem, I'm going to divide it without the decimal points and then put them back in. So I need to actually move it over 2 spaces anyway. So I'm really doing 120 divided by 4. So I'm going to get 30 as my answer. For C, the word of means multiplication. So I'm doing 11 over 4 times 3 over 7. So I'm going to get 33 over 28. Or you can write it as 1 and 5/28. Either way is fine. 4.16 times 2/10. So I'm going to multiply 416 times 2 and get, let's see, 12. I carry that 1, 2, 3, 832. And then since there's a total of 3 numbers past the decimal point, I'm going to move it in. So the final answer is 0.832. The next question is asking about Letitia and her scores. So we're going to add some more to her scores. She's still trying to get that 85%. So she got an 85% on her test today. So let's find her new average. So we're going to do 72